What is up, y'all? Hope y'all having a wonderful day. We are here in Knoxville with three-time PGA Tour winner, Scott Stallings. He's gonna teach us how he trains. He's getting ready for the 2022 season. We're working on short game here.
So guys, I don't really hit a bunch of balls when I play. I kind of got a couple different things I work on in my swing. Kind of once I feel pretty good with that. I spend a bunch of time in and around and on the greens, a lot of wedge play, a lot of different things like that, a lot of games. Where I start's a little bit of a game, a little bit of a check to kind of see what's going on with some of my pitching. Pretty simple proportion game. We find the area around the pitching green that's kind of 5 steps on, and then you kind of work 1 to 1, 2 to 1, and 3 to 1. So it would be 5 steps on, 5 steps off the green, 5 steps on, 10 steps off the green, and then obviously same thing, and then you go to 15. So you're 5, 10, and 15 steps off the green, and then you go a little bit of a per foot average. So I'm going to go 4 out of 5 inside of 3 feet, 4 out of 5 inside of 4 feet, and 4 out of 5 inside of 5 feet from those perspective. And kind of how you deliver loft and how the club's coming and interacting with the ground, kind of a little bit of a setup check. And the ball seems to be coming off the same way, then I kind of go on something else. A little bit harder than it sounds, especially once you see it.
Basically, I just wanted to kind of let y'all inside the ropes on how tour players do get ready for the upcoming season, what drills they're doing to improve their short game in and around the greens. Let's buckle up. Let's watch them grind on the short game.
If I have not been practicing a ton, and this is kind of my first practice, I always use a club or some type of alignment stick or something outside, because I tend, like most people, to aim the face right. I try to set up square, my feet square to the target, but then my face can get a little bit open, which is fine, but I just don't want the face open and the handle forward. I at least want the handle to be somewhat neutral, especially on a shot that's like this. As we go further and further back, the face is going to have to open. And I do this drill too. If I make one, I'm done. As I do it, like you see steep, kind of the ball running up the face, pretty good. And then the shallowest one, then you see the ball, it came off nice, just a little bit better contact. As you do it more and more and more, you kind of react to the drill and kind of get in there, and kind of sets the delivery of how the club's kind of coming into the ground.
Like tight lies when it's wet.
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking? People walk up to them and they just think they're going to chunk it. What are your thoughts?
At some point, you have to set the loft. Any type of where the turf interaction is going to be tough, you almost have to set it beforehand, and instead of people react kind of through the hit, where the club starts to float. And the float is like this, where the club starts to change direction. So you get in some tight stuff, pretty damp, pretty tight. Let's just say the ball's got to go up in the air, and we'll just hit it to the arbitrary part of the green. So a lot of people want to go like this.
Right.
They make the ball go up in the air, and then the ball forward. But you're really good. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. But it's very hard to repeat. So what I would say for your average amateur is you're going to have to twist the grip, which means the club face is going to have to go open, but you're going to have to lean it just ever so slightly with the shaft in front, where the club is going to go in the ground and you are going to get some turf interaction. But where a lot of people struggle is you almost have to preempt the chunk. Like, you are going to know that the ball is going to come off slow. So you have to a lot of people chunk it because they don't make a big enough swing. So if I'm going to hit into this mush, I got to give it some gas to make that club be able to kind of get in and out of there. So what I mean is, people make this shot and the ball comes out and kind of slow and kind of rolls up the face. Well, I'm going to set up the same and make it a little bit bigger swing, and just know that the ball is going to be able to come out and kind of deliver in and kind of be able to get through that turf a little easier. On the green stays the same. It's always 5, but now we're 2 to 1 the opposite. So I'm 10 paces off, 5 paces on the green. And statistically and personally, this is my most difficult. I like to drive the ball in. I've got a lot of forward shaft lean, so any kind of pitching motion, anything like that for me to keep the ball down is good. So anything that's got to have loft and relatively short side is not something I'm particularly great at. So this is something that I spend a lot of time here. So See, that's like a little bit too drivey. Handles too much down there through that. There's a good strike, nice contact, but 6-7 feet past the hole. Like, it looked good, but in terms of what we're looking for that ball to land a little bit more consistent, land a little bit shorter, and kind of release towards the hole. So a little bit more loft, kind of work on my setup. The delivery was great. It was shallow going in, but still there's still too much strike down through there and a little bit too flat coming into the green. There we go. A little bit calmer, ball kind of coming down through. You just hear the sound. See, the ball's kind of reacting. All the landing spots are a little bit more consistent. This is the best drill and the drill that I probably do the most. But in terms of like turf interaction and how the greens are reacting, this is the first thing I come to. As Zach has seen, every shot continues to improve, and that's something we kind of rely upon. And you kind of react to the circumstance, and after 4 or 5 shots, you can tell pretty quick like what's going on and how you kind of adjust your setup to get the results that you want. So predominantly most people, and kind of the evolution of a lob wedge, which if you're my age or younger, kind of the 60s, all you knew. Older than me, sand wedge was kind of what your default, and then lob wedge came along, so it's where you're kind of 50-50. What you see a lot is people, loft is your friend, and you have bounce. But what you see is contrasting variables, which means when you open the face, they always push the grip forward. So in a perfect scenario, so for argument's sake, we're going to say this is a 60-degree wedge, and this is perfectly square to that target. So as I open the face, the grip has to go forward, to kind of go in there, and then the face gets pointed right at the target line. What a lot of people struggle is as you add loft, the grip has to go back to keep the face pointed square at the target, where the club is there, and then you adjust your setup around where the face is aimed. Most amateurs don't do that. Most amateurs open the face and it gets aimed way right, and then they swing it left to try to make it go in. Well, you have two things that are pointed the complete opposite direction with a high degree of difficulty and a very low probability of success, because when are these two lines going to cross each other? At the point of contact, I'm trying to make everything go in the same direction or slightly this one inside to give myself more opportunity to hit that square line. Predominantly the best pitchers and everyone on tour kind of default to that sort of mentality. I always hear the best bunker players tend to want to try to slightly draw the ball, where the ball is going to come out where they don't have that crazy left to right spin. At some point in the bunker, the face has to open. But predominantly, the club's going to come shallow slightly from the inside and make the ball go straight up in the air. To kind of show you an extreme circumstance of that, the ball had to go up high. And a little bit of it, you see this like Pete Cowan, James Ridyard, Yelverton, Pierce, all the great short game teachers who work with a ton of guys on tour. The old school videos of like Jose Maria, Seve, they would get these like 5, 6, and 7 irons, and they'd hit them sky high, but then you'd watch them set up and it looked like their back knee was down. Well, in order to deliver the club with the loft, you have to shallow it out, and you would feel like their butt squatted down, where they would be able to make the club kind of go up in the air. Well, if I had to make this ball, like if I had to flop it over your head, I would never stand like this, which is what you see most amateurs do. And
Agreed.
A lot of what I see at Wednesday Pro-Ams, I see this guy trying to hit this flop shot, and it's like this, and me and my caddy are over there hiding behind our bag. If this ball had to go up in the air, like for my life, I'd put a ton of loft on it and put this back foot back and get shut, where the club could come in and I could kind of feel that loft hit on the inside of my leg and make this ball go straight up in the air. Sort of like this.
And that thing stopped on a dime back there.
Yeah, we're just kind of hitting a shot relative. The pin's sort of irrelevant. So the club face is square to the target. Everett slightly shut. Face more open, lots of loft. Nice shallow turf, club coming in and out of there. Like, this is your friend. Like, utilizing all this, like, this is better than I will ever be. So utilizing as much of this to make the ball go in the air as consistent as possible is what you're looking at.
So I was asking Scott why it is that he thinks that most amateurs literally do the opposite of what they should be doing.
Well, the first answer is they don't know what they should be doing. Especially like what I see with my friends that just call them average amateur players. You know, the excitement level of playing, say you get a chance to play once a week. So they get that opportunity of like, oh, well, I could do this. I probably should do this, but man, this is my only chance to play this week. So they're going to take it on. And then they end up making a triple when they probably should have just made a bogey. And then that, 82, that they should have shot turned into 88. And the next thing you know, it's kind of like a trickle down effect. Most amateurs don't work on their short game, where most pros is kind of all we do. So it's a little bit of a different mentality, but there's no baseline of setup. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. When you are given a certain scenario, you're trying to control as many of the variables as possible. But in chipping is ball position and loft, and a little bit of having a reaction to a setup to make the ball determined to a certain thing. People try to take a situation like this shot, an example. This is the 3-1, so 15 off, 5 on the green of the first drill that we kind of went into. I'm giving myself relatively decent lies to make the ball. It's a little bit of a setup drill for me and kind of a shot, but I was showing Zach that in this situation, I've got into the grain everything, and I'm giving that ball cannot land on the green. So where I would see an amateur see this shot and try to make that lie do what they see in their mind, when realistically that ball cannot do that. So kind of reverse engineer your thought process, take what is possible here and try to figure out how to make it applicable to that, and kind of look at it from two different ways. So back-to-back shots, relatively decent lie. All right, this ball is no problem landing on the green. Hit it a little too hard, but okay. I see this ball has no chance of landing on the green. I might even use a different club. But you see that nice shallow kind of delivery, how the ball kind of comes in, the turf's going fine. This turf interaction is going to be completely different. It's wet, it's into the grain, it's scuffed up, but I can put enough control on this ball to relatively assure me some kind of opportunity to putt. So that's kind of what I would do. Change my setup, get a little crowded. I probably should have used a sand wedge there to just kind of drive it, but this is the only club I had. Just to kind of reiterate that, kind of normal setup. And with this lie, I can do whatever I want. I can hit any shot, I could drive it in, I could land it on the green, I could flop it, I could do whatever. Then I get the other circumstance of where I get this in there, this ball cannot land on the green. So my setup and thought process has got to be totally different in how I deliver the club into that lie compared to the first one.
So basically you're saying that lie dictates what you're capable of. And
you have to know what the lie is capable of doing before you put it into action into a shot. Because there's just going to be some certain scenarios. Say you get a great lie, it almost brings in too many options, where I think amateurs struggle with that too. Well, I could do anything. I think that's a lot of times when you see on tour, you see guys in like horrible positions and they hit great shots. It's like, well, they didn't have any other option. Like, they had to drive it in there and they got a good bounce and it rolled up there to a foot and they tapped it in, and you see the guy laughing. And it's like, man, that guy was trying to hit it to 20 feet and he just got a great break. That's why I think you see that a lot. And we practice a lot. So you want to kind of go into a little bit of the setup change as far as what happens there. I got some loft. Club face is relatively square. Weight's kind of neutral, a little bit wider stance. Coming in there. Almost made it, but still nice and shallow. Club kind of comes in, ball lands relatively soft. So then I get this lie, and we'll kind of rough it up a little bit, and I'll do it close. So we'll go there. So I've hit it in a divot, some kind of footprint. For argument's sake, I can't land this ball on the green. So what do? I got to change my setup. I got to give the club a little bit more opportunity to kind of drive the ball, make sure I contact ball first and give it enough energy to kind of chase up that hill and kind of get it up on the green and give myself a shot to get it up and down. So where before I was a little bit like this, now I'm gonna crowd the plate a little bit. So we're gonna say that this is square. I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna stand the grip up a little bit, where I'm gonna get that heel off the ground, because that's a lot of where the chunk comes from. And I'm gonna slightly lean the shaft forward, which is gonna be slightly like this. So what that's gonna look like, the heel's gonna go up a little bit. I'm going to toe it in, so I'm going to hood the face. You know, we're going to use this as what's square. I'm going to stand up a little bit more on top of it, and I'm going to kind of deliver the club right in the back of the ball, so it'll kind of pop up there on the edge of the green and roll. Pretty nice.
That was pretty good right there.
Kind of just what we wanted. I think for the most part, like situational awareness for any player, whether you're a tour player, a beginner, or whatever, of understanding when given a certain set of anything, whether it's lie, you know, weather, whatever, and kind of understanding what that looks like when you're faced into it. And as you gain experience, all that stuff starts to come along. And as you get better and better, you start to understand how to manage or mitigate those, you know, kind of better than you did before. Having little drills like this that's kind of built into your game. I do this drill in a tournament or some variation of this drill multiple times a week at a tournament, and especially when I'm coming off a stretch where I've had some time off, or from tournament to tournament based off different grasses or different conditions that we play, whether it be on the softer side or whether we go from bent to Bermuda or Poana or all these different things that we come in. Those are all variables we got to learn how to deal with. So having sort of a baseline set of the best way to understand it and the best way to kind of combat that. And that's why I feel like this drill is something that I utilize all the time, and some variation of this would kind of help, you know, any player at any level. You need to do this drill all the time.
So Scott's telling me I need to do this drill all the time. And I really appreciate him walking us through something that he uses to prepare himself for winning PGA Tour tournaments, because this drill right here teaches you 3 different types of chips or pitches that we all need to know, and we can all get better and all can improve. And if Scott's doing this like almost daily, for sure weekly, we all should be doing this drill. So I hope you enjoyed those tips from Scott. I really appreciate him taking the time to walk us through kind of his practice regiment around the greens for chipping and pitching. He's about to hit the road and starting the 2022 season. So I'll link his Instagram and Twitter down below so you can kind of follow along his journey. I'm going to be rooting him on. He's going to be starting out west, so let's cheer him on. As for me, Knoxville, Tennessee, Scott, we'll see you when we see you. Peace.